The Missouri Compromise was Congress's response to the question whether or not slavery should be allowed in the states on the land procured by the Louisiana Purchase. Their response resulted in a three-part compromise where the federal government created a method for deciding the slavery issue in the constitution of future states. First, they made it so all states north of 3630 latitude would be free states, and all states south of it would be slave states. Second, Missouri was allowed to decide the slavery issue by itself. It ultimately ended up voting in favor of it. Finally, Maine was admitted into the Union as a free state in order to balance the number of slave states and free states. Had the Louisiana Purchase not happened, then the issue of slavery would have been decided by the states instead of the federal government. This might have been a better idea, since arguably labor issues should be decided by individual states instead of the federal government all the way on the East Coast. However, allowing each state to decide for itself whether to permit slavery or prohibit it could result in severe consequences in the federal government. This is because at the time of the Missouri Compromise, there was the exact same amount of slave states as there were free states. This means that there were an equal number of free state senators as slave state senators. If new states were to decide the issue of slavery on their own, without the federal government regulating their decision, then it is possible that the delicate free state-slave state balance could be tipped. This leads to two paths that history could have gone down. The first scenario would be that more new states chose to become free states rather than slave states, thus giving free states a majority in the Senate. This would allow Congress to pass bills benefiting and enforcing the Northern way of life more easily, such as tariffs and possibly emancipation, since they already had a majority in the House. The South, not wanting to adhere to the laws imposed by the free state-run government, would likely secede, resulting in a civil war. This is not much different than what happened in reality, although the secession of the southern states would probably have happened sooner due to Congress's ability to pass anti-slavery bills more quickly. The other scenario would be that more new states chose to become slave states rather than free states, thus giving slave states a majority in the Senate. A majority in the Senate would allow the South to block any anti-slavery bills drawn up in the House, which at the time was composed of mostly Northern representatives, due to the larger population concentration in the North. This would cause a standstill in the government regarding the slavery issue. Also, Abraham Lincoln would probably not have been elected, because the new slave states would have increased Stephen Douglas's influence all throughout the northern states. Since he didn't lose by much of the popular vote, this extra push might have been enough for him to beat out Lincoln in the North and cause him to be elected as president. Abraham Lincoln was an abolitionist, and because of that, one of the main reasons why the South seceded. If he wasn't elected, then it is likely that the South wouldn't have seceded and there wouldn't have been a civil war. If there was no civil war, then there would still be slavery, not to mention that there would be no state of West Virginia. It would have been up to fate to decide which path the country would have taken if there was no Missouri Compromise, one path being close to reality and the other radically different.